Hi, I'm just making this video about the term warlock and what I think about it. Um, the term warlock is something which more male witches are using to refer to themselves as. Um, at one time, maybe like at least 30 years ago, say, you'd really be told that the term warlock was a term of insult, meaning oathbreaker, and that a male witch was still a witch, and no male witch would really call themselves a warlock. However, something has really changed in the pagan community over time, and more people are picking up the term and identifying with it. Now, the online etymology dictionary says the following about the word warlock. It says, Old English werloga, traitor, liar, enemy, from where faith, a compact. That's from the Old High German wara, truth, Old Norse varar, solemn promise, vow. Um, now, originally, it also says that the primary sense seems to have been oathbreaker, given special application to the devil, but also used of giants and cannibals, meaning one in league with the devil, and that's recorded from about 1300 CE. And also it gives the meaning of male equivalent of a witch from the 1560s, with some link to Scotland there. Now the fairy initiate Storm Fairy Wolf, who actually has embraced the term warlock, also gives a reference to the Old Norse word vardlokker, meaning caller of spirits, referring to the singing of sacred chants or songs. But he does note that that's not really backed up by academic consensus, and that's something that I've also heard as well. But it's a nice idea, certainly. It does seem that warlock did pass into common understanding at one time as meaning a male witch or a sorcerer or a worker of magic. It seems to have had a slightly different flavor to the word wizard, with a greater association with witchcraft and being in league with the devil. Now, men were accused and tried of witchcraft, though the only place where men were the majority of the accused was, I think, Iceland. The majority of the persecuted in the historical witch craze were women, though men were executed for supposed witchcraft or sorcery and heresy, and they do form part of the diabolic imagination of the time, which is illustrated in various works. Personally speaking, I actually like the term warlock because I think it retains some kind of countercultural charge. It's got a kind of unassimilated and deviating quality to it, and it has some kind of mystery. And it's a male term, which is actually really valuable for male witches in the really very feminocentric world of neo-paganism and Wiccan-derived paganism. You can see that if you look at a term like warlock, there's no association there with things like male sacrifice, with usable chivalry, with soldiery and war service, or some kind of like, reproductive service, a donation of sex or semen. There's none of those associations with the term warlock, yeah. Whereas with neo-paganism, if you look at a lot of neo-pagan motifs around the male sacred or what have you, or male witches, the themes really come back to reproduction and sacrifice quite strongly, actually. So really, does that speak to me? Well, no, not at all. Absolutely not. And I'm quite opposed to it. I don't want it. So, although the term is concerned with oath breaking, you've got to ask, what oaths is it breaking, really? Oath breaking is a good thing when your oaths are coerced, when they're unfree, and they're in service to something that oppresses you. So I have to ask, if the term warlock is an insult, who is it an insult to? is it an insult to a free man or to a good slave? I mean, for me personally, words like witch and warlock are, well, they're poetic realities, really. And I'm happy for any word to be given a liberating and progressive meaning. But I have to be honest and know that the word witch isn't really built to liberate me, and neither is most of neo-paganism for that matter, despite what it claims. I do like the genderlessness of the modern usage of the term witch, but you only have to really look at popular conceptions of modern witches and the dominant streams of Wiccan-influenced paganism to see that actually the term isn't that genderless. We get things like statements about men and women being equal and the male and female being equal in divinity, but the fact is that the male divinity is the consort of the goddess. Yeah, that's not unequal. And people talk about the feminine being first among equals. Well, I'm sorry, but first among equal is not equal. First among equal is superior. You can try and cook it any way you like. You can try and fudge it, but it's getting all a little bit Orwellian, really. So I would actually question if the word witch really is genderless, despite what people claim. There's a problem there, and I think it needs to be made explicit. And similarly, in a way, you know, the term witch does tend to be associated with streams of occult mysticism which have a very strong female-centeredness, or else they're very deeply heterosexual, which also doesn't speak to me, or stuck on things like fertility, and none of those things are good enough for me. None of those things do I find unoppressive. Yeah, so they don't fit. Added to which, a lot of witchcraft seems to have become very, very respectable, and you can see why. And you know, it's just you know, getting on with life, really. But it is a long, long way from the Sabbath. Somehow, it's a long way from the original vision, which I think has probably drawn a lot of people to witchcraft. There's something polymorphous about that vision, and well, it just doesn't follow the common path. It deviates from it, and it's a departing from a path rather than simply a following step by step of something. So I think that freeing aspect of witchcraft is something which maybe needs to be recaptured. So anyway, the term warlock is there, and in a lot of ways I think it suits me better than the term witch. It captures the romance more fully, and it acts as a gateway to an underrepresented reality. And it bypasses a whole load of stuff that I actually don't have anything to do with. So all of that's good for me. So there you go. I guess I got to ask, who's up for some oath breaking? Because I think it's a pretty good idea.